Yeah,
So
that makes me think of while we're on the subject of self-defense moves,
yeah,
eye gouging and nut cracking, right? Or
okay,
kicking the nuts, kicking the grinds. The only time I ever pulled that off is this was when I'm not proud of this, and I'm not gonna go like into too much detail because I'm not sure if I should or not. But essentially, I got into a fight.
yeah,
This dude was bigger than me, and so my first reaction was okay. You know, so I give him an elbow to the face because I know he doesn't he wants to go. So I always had this habit of being preemptive, so I would strike first. So I gave him an elbow to the face, and then we started. But he's a big guy; he didn't go down. So we started exchanging blows. So I'm just like walking forward and punching him in the head, and he's there punching me in the head in the face too. And then at one point, I was able to I surprised him. I kicked him in the face. And after I kicked him in the face, he was still coming forward, but he was a little bit dazed. And that's when I had both thumbs in his eyeballs, and then I pushed it in. I pushed it in, but then he moved. So like I know my left thumb actually went inside the socket, but he was moving.
ooh,
And then he moved, and my thumb ended up in his mouth. And then he tried to bite off my thumb, and I ripped my thumb out, and I still have the scar until today, right here. And then from there, he fell down on the ground, and no, I think we ended up in a grappling scenario, and this is when I didn't know how to fight. All I had as a background back then was there was no grappling, there was just my taekwondo. That's why I managed to kick him in the face, and there was uh, I wouldn't consider kung fu. I don't think kung fu helped me at all in that situation. So I had my taekwondo, and I had a little bit of some self-defense stuff that I did like along the way. So then, anyways, after that eye gouge, like with my two thumbs going in. Well, I tried to get the two thumbs inside, but only the left one went inside, and then he slipped out of it, and it ended up in his mouth. He tried to bite my thumb off. I ripped it off. It was bleeding. I still had the scars. We end up in a grappling situation, and then we end up falling on the floor. So then we're on the floor, but my head is near his crotch. So that's when I started punching his crotch. So those are the only two times that I ever pulled off the gouging somebody's eyes out.
yeah,
I
no,
didn't gouge. I didn't take out his eye, but I
man.
shoved it in there, and then I grind striked him, but I didn't kick him in the grind. I was punching his grind because I was already on the ground with my head like next to his crutch.
Most
So I'm
people
not gonna
can't
tell you the rest of
can
the
you bring
story here
themselves
because
psychologically to do that?
well, it was kind of a life and death situation. So
Yeah,
that's why, like, and, like, I'm not going to tell you the end of the story on camera because it might. I'm not sure if it would get me in trouble or not. But suffice to say
okay.
that I was actually fighting two guys. So while I was beating up on the bigger guy, the smaller guy was smashing bottles on my head. So
Ooh,
I think I must have gotten 2, 3 bottles on my head while I was attacking the bigger dude. But all that to say that like I literally had to like elbow the guy in the face, punch him a couple of times, kick him in the face, and then I was able to actually get my thumbs like near his eyes.
basically,
That's how
just
hard it
just to
was.
get to the dirty moves, you had to you had to fight just to get to that position.
Yeah,
Is what
and I got like 2, 3 bottles of beer, like or whatever the hell it was, smashed on my head.
yeah.
And then I finally all that, and then we finally fell to the ground, and that's when I was able to get like a couple of strikes into his grind.
That is so interesting because well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, do you remember when Keith Hackney fought Joe Son in the early UFC when there were no rules and groin strikes were still allowed? Like
Oh
the
yeah,
only
yeah.
deliberate groin strike I remember seeing in those early UFC days where it was still allowed was on the ground. They were tied up. It was like almost like a weird unintentional half guard type of position. And Keith Hackney starts punching Joe Son in the groin like 3 or 4 times, and you could still see like reluctance in his face, like he wasn't enjoying it. He was like, if I have to, I have to. but it was only because he was kind of in that desperate situation. And it's so interesting that like nobody else did it. And I don't think it's because nobody else thought about it. I'm sure everybody thought about it. Anything goes. The first thing we think about is groin strikes and eye pokes, right? But it's a fight to get into that position. I've had a few students who were Aikido black belts over the years, and one of them, interesting little dude from Greece named Manolis. And Manolis, he comes into the class, he trains for a few months, and after a few months of sparring, he actually managed just to pull off one of those flippy dippy Aikido throws on somebody while sparring, like MMA sparring. And afterwards, I say, "Wow, that's really cool. I've never seen anybody do one of those Aikido style flippy dippy throws in real life." And he said, "Yeah, that's the reason I'm taking this class is to learn how to fight. So that because Aikido only works when you already know how to fight." I thought, "Well, that's so interesting." And essentially what you're saying is dirty moves only know when you already know, or the dirty moves only work when you already know how to fight. And I think that that's absolutely true. If you don't know anything about position, how are you going to get in position to poke someone in the eye? If you don't know anything about position, how are you going to get in position to groin strike or any of these other dirty moves, if you will? And a lot of people say, "Well, I would just drop a 12-6 elbow on his back." Okay, how are you going to get to his back if you don't know how to fight? Right? Position first, then attack. The old Pedro Sauer adage, man. It's true in jiu-jitsu. It's true in self-defense. It's true in all aspects of combat.
But see, that's the thing too, and that was actually one of my one of my next videos for my channel is talking about like you know, self-defense moves, specifically the you know, the eye gouging and the grind strikes. Like those things only work if you actually know how to fight, like you said. So you have to be able to um, well, to set it up.
Or
That's the
if you
hard
totally
part.
surprise someone, or if you overwhelm them with strike, just like the wrist lock. It's like the same strategy as the wrist lock, or really any of those Aikido moves, right? You got to know
Yeah.
how
So
to fight first, or take people by surprise, or just be physically imposing,
yeah.
or
So
some
you say.
combination of those three.
So it's practically like you have to be already beating them to a pulp before you could actually use those self-defense moves. But then at that point, it's not even self-defense anymore. It's just, well, then just learn how to fight, and those things actually take care of itself. Like it's very easy for me to, like, if I was getting into a so-called altercation, a street fight, so to speak, like it's not the first thing I'm gonna be thinking about. Like you know, eye gouging and kicking his nuts. I'm gonna be like, okay, how am I gonna like essentially knock this guy out or throw him on his head? And once I do that, I will decide from there. Like from there, I could decide to do all the nasty stuff, all the so-called, you know, I could rip off his ear if I want. I could, you know, I could poke his eyeballs out. You know, I could bite him or whatever, or I could smash his nuts to pieces. You know, or I could
Oh
snap
yeah,
his neck. You know, like, you know, the whole neck snapping thing. Yeah, but you get, so essentially you got to beat the crap out of the guy first, and then after that you could essentially self-defense move, and but then you're essentially like permanently injuring the guy or killing him, and that's no longer self-defense. So for me,
that
self-defense is kind of like a funny way of thinking about it. It's like there is no such thing as self-defense. It's just, to me, I feel as though it's either you know how to fight or you don't. Like self-defense moves,
here's
it's
a
kind of.
question for you. Sorry to
Hmm?
interrupt, but I got to ask you this: do you think you could beat a house cat in a fight?
A house cat.
Yeah. Like if that house cat was just went wild and feral and had bad intentions toward you, do you think you could beat that house cat in a fight?
Oh man, that's a scary thought. Like not without taking a lot of, not without taking damage.